YouTube? Happy BT14 release day. We are going to be starting with a short series that the boys and I are trying to roll out over the next week or so. Now that we have officially entered the era of BT14, we are going to be sharing some deck profiles that we've cooked up in anticipation of the set's release. We're definitely super excited getting a breath of fresh air with new decks and new toys to play with, so we wanted to share this with you. Mind you that, these are very preliminary deck builds that will likely change and evolve as we get our testing in, but we definitely wanted to at least give you all a starting point as we all, start to put together stuff for BT14. So with that being said, please feel free to drop your own deck builds, your own ideas, thoughts, comments, feedback. We just really appreciate hearing from you all, and we really do appreciate the support that we've been getting lately from the community. So always love hearing from you guys. And without further ado, let's hop right into talking about BT14's next best boy, and that is Fenriloogamon. For those of you who've tuned into my other deck profile or deck discussion videos, you'll notice that this is less of a deck discussion and more of just like purely deck profile. As we get more experience, as I get a little bit more experience and learn more about this deck, I'll try to maybe put out like a how to play a Fenrilooga video, but I think right now we'll focus strictly on just the cards, okay? So we'll start off with the Digi-Tama, and that is Bowmon. We have to run this out of 4 of. I think it's really the only egg you run in this deck. The heritable effect is the heart and soul of what this deck wants to do and really helps just synergize it with everything else that's going on. So I just think Bowmon's the best egg for the deck. If you want to run a 5th egg, you run Demi-Meramon. But, your ability to, when you trash a card, Digivolve into said Digimon is, I think, just great. Moving on to the level 3s, we've got, starting with Loogamon. He's a definite 4 of. I believe he's your main level 3. Talking about this with RB and TJ the other night, I think you really can pull your combo plays off the best when Loogamon is your rookie. I think everything else is sort of like a flex in a way. And I think your ratios can differ, and we'll go over that in a quick second. But being able to mind link with AG, gain a memory, and ramp into your big time plays, I think is just great value. The inheritable effect to gain a memory as well when you play out a Dark Animal or SOC trait Digimon is also just so good because that's exactly what this deck wants to do. And I think in general, this sort of epitomizes what makes Fenrilooga so scary is that we finally have a purple deck now that we have access to that has the ability to ramp memory like with scary efficiency. And I think that makes this deck just so cracked, this format. Next rookie we're running is 3 of Dracmon from BT9. The ability to like on play, reveal 3, add 1, and add 1 to trash. Like add 1 to hand and then add 1 to trash, I think is great for early game value. It cycles through your deck, it helps you set up your trash, which is what you want to do early game, and it helps you look for pieces. So I think as an early game rookie, whether you're digivolving or just hard playing it, I think it's pretty good. The when attacking effect is also not bad. Basically it states, when this Digimon is attacking, you may digivolve into a Digimon card with Undead or Dark Animal and its traits from your trash for its Digivolution cost. Similar to Bowmon in a sense, but it does need your trash to be set up a little bit more effectively, so not bad. I think it's solid, overall. The next rookie running is 2 of Fascomon from the starter deck 14 or the Beelzemon starter deck. I really use it just for the consistency. It does have the not inheritable, but it has like an inherent blocker ability, which, in my opinion today with how everything is in the meta, most blockers and floodgates get removed extremely easily. I just feel like any like level 6 or level 5 even, they just sneeze and your floodgates are gone, your blockers are gone. It's just so easy to pop these guys now that, it's nice to have on board. It forces your opponent to deal with it, but I don't think it does that much value. Having 2k DP as well is just sort of particularly when you're looking into your alliance plays down the line. So I definitely think it's a flex spot, which is very similar to starter deck 16 Gabumon, which is our last rookie that we're playing. Rounding it off at a 2 of with him. The gaining memory while you start your main phase if your opponent has a Digimon on board is okay. I think the inheritable effect is really why I'm running it, which is like a classic purple inheritable to draw 1, trash 1 when attacking. You know, it's a good early game like searcher and setup trash piece. But again, like it's not searchable via your dark animal searches. It sometimes just feels like meh in your hand. So I would say both Fastgo and Gabumon are flex spots. You can play up with your ratios, run one or the other. Some other alternative rookies you can run or consider running are Ignitemon from BT11. You know, basically gaining memory as an inheritable effect when you play out by an effect. You can consider the other floodgates like Gazimon and Psychemon as well. So, you know, I think you have some options, but I opted to run for the ratio cut that sort of gave me the most consistency in finding my pieces. And that wraps up our level 3s. Alrighty, and moving on to our level 4s, we've got Fangmon from BT14. I'm running him at a 3 of. I really like his on-play and when attacking effects. I think the more I play this game, I think the more I really enjoy the idea of recursion and trash manipulation. So I'm really feeling that purple pull, in all honesty. But, you know, Fangmon's effect to pull from trash and then possibly trash that card, right? To digivolve it into via Balmon's effect, I think is just so good for early and late game. You know, early game, it helps you get into a quick level 5, proc any when digivolving effects, proc any potential on deletion effects, spoiler alert, and get an early chip in. You know, I think late game, if you're playing him off of Fenrilooga's effect, you basically can say, look, I need like one more piece to kind of go for lethal. You can just bring it back from trash, right? So I think it has a lot of sort of dual benefits with this deck, and I think it synergizes very, very well. Next is going to be sort of your more main level 4, which is Lugarmon from BT14. I'm running him at a 4 of. I think gaining memory with the when attacking effects as well as the inheritable effects is just super, super clutch. And I think late game, you try to keep this guy alive and then digivolve into your level 5. But I think, again, similar to what I mentioned with Fangmon, like early game, it's not bad to just proc effects. You can cycle, you can trash, you gain a memory. You're doing a whole lot of things with your level 4s when attacking, which is a common theme between these two, to get into like a level 5 via your egg effect and then do some early chip damage and cycle there too. So I think really, really good for the deck. I think you have to run him at a 4 of. And then the last level 4 we're running is Black Gatomon from BT8. I'm running this guy at a 3 of. He's your finisher. Really the card that like you really want to just see in your trash as early as possible. You want to get this in trash, ready to go for when you pull off your combo play and just swing for game. So really the only purpose of this card is to be in your trash. You never really want to digivolve this. You know, there are definitely other plays that you can make instead of digivolving him in the back. So whenever you see this guy in your hand, just get ready to pitch it, right? So I think that wraps up for me, my level 4s. We're running 10. Again, like the 3 Fangmon, the 4 Lugarmon, and the 3 Black Gatomon. I personally think this level 4 lineup is pretty tight. The only other alternative I can think of is maybe like EX2 Dobermon, which lets you mill 3 upon deletion. So it does help you set up your trash a little bit. And it's cheaper to play as well, just a hard play. But I just think it's okay. I prefer the lineup that I have right now. So moving on to the level 5s. We have 3, pardon. But we're going to start off with the duo of Wolf Brothers over here. And we got, first up is Hell Lugarmon. I prefer to see him early game if I'm going into a level 5. Mainly because of its end of turn and on deletion effects. So end of turn, you can delete this Digimon. You draw 2, and you return 1 Lugamon from your trash to the hand. So if there's a Lugamon in trash, like in your stack, when you delete this Digimon, you can bring that Lugamon back because of the timing and the sequencing of the phrases. So keep that in mind. And then on deletion, you can trash up to 3 cards with the Dark Animal or SOC trait in hand, and then you can delete one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon. So extremely insane, like early game removal and early game control with this guy. And it just helps you cycle, right? So if you can imagine, like I said, just going into him via Fangmon, trash, go into him. He'll more than likely survive, hopefully, right? You know, there's a 9k. So if you end your turn, you can draw and you cycle. But even if he does die, right, you still are able to delete stuff on board with pretty good control. So I think he's a really, really good level 5 to go into early game. And the level 5 you want to go into your late game is Fenriloogamon. Fenriloogamon has a Digivolving effect to play out a body, which I think is super helpful for your alliance plays with Fenrilooga. And I think being able to play out an additional card such as like Fangmon, Rush Gato to get that extra like body on board to get you prepped for your combo play is huge. When attacking, you trash a card from your hand. So if you can imagine with Balmon's effect, similar to what we've alluded to multiple times already, when you trash a card, you can go straight into it. So ideally, you're, moving this guy up from raising, swinging, then choosing to like trash a Fenrilooga, and then proccing Balmon's effect to Digivolve into Fenrilooga, and then you can kind of do your shenanigans that way. So I think he's like the perfect late game rookie for this card. And the fact that when you play a card with Dark Animal or SOC trait, which, surprise, surprise, is Fenrilooga's when Digivolving effect, you can unsuspend. So it basically lets you swing with a Fenrilooga when attacking, right? You play out your stuff and you unsuspend to keep going with your combo play. So super, super great for that OTK combo, which is why I'm choosing to run him at a 4 of. The last 2 level 5s that we're running here is the Chimeramon from BT8. Now, Chimeramon, I think, is very, very useful for this deck because Fenrilooga loves to just like spit out bodies, right? In my opinion, he's almost like a purple Jessmon, where if you can string along your combos well, you can sort of maintain a huge board presence while controlling the board really, really well. But if you're not able to set up like your Rush Gatos and trash, and you're missing that extra swing, you are playing most of the times 3 bodies with Fenrilooga's effect. If you have Chimera in hand, I mean, that's a DNA Digivolve and then swing for game potentiality with it. So I think it's really, really good for this deck. I think running it at a 1 of felt too little. I kind of liked seeing more of it, so I did run it at a 2 of. I don't think you run it at any more of a 2 of, mind you. But I do think having that option to say, look, like I don't have that swing, but I've given my guy Alliance, I've done what I can with Fenrilooga, I've used up my 1 Rush Gato or whatever, right? If you can DNA Digivolve and swing again, I mean, that could easily do it. So, which is why I really like Chimera in this deck. And that does wrap up our level 5s. And moving on to our one and only level 6 of the deck, the pretty purple boy, Fenriloogamon. So, he is the main top end that you'll be seeing a lot of, I think, in this meta. There's a reason that this deck is tier 1 and you're looking right at him right now. The effects are a bit of a mouthful, so bear with me. When Digivolving, you can play out 1 level 4 lower Digimon card with the Dark Animal or SOC trait from your trash without paying the play cost, or paying the cost. If Eiji Nagasumi is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, which again, most likely it is during your turn, you add 2 to the number of cards you can play by this effect, so you can play up to 3 bodies. When attacking, by deleting one of your opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon, you unsuspend this Digimon. And then for each of your Digimon, add 1 to the level this effect may choose. So again, you can choose to pop up to a level 6, which allows you to restand and potentially swing again with Alliance. And then the icing on the cake is that during your turn, the turn end condition is the opponent having 3 or more memory. This is the first time we've ever had anything like this in the card game where you manipulate your opponent's like conditions to play the game, which I think is insanely, busted in a sense. You can make the argument that you're basically giving your opponent a memory setter, which can be painful. But I think ultimately, like, this allows you to prolong your turn, even just by a little bit, and give you that extra 2 memory to say, look, like, I still can make some plays. I still can do some things, right? So I really do think, that effect in and of itself makes this card super, super good. Again, we'll talk more about strategy maybe in another video later on in the meta, but I did want to give you guys an idea of what to look out for with Fenrilooga. As you can probably tell, you're looking at an OTK playstyle with this deck. So there are some drawbacks to it. There's no protection. So if you hit something big in security or hit an option card, you're kind of stuck in the water. which again is why I like cards like Chimeramon to say, okay, look, like I lost my big guy, but let me DNA and go back right into him, you know? So I think it can be useful, and that really does wrap up our Digimon, right? So moving on to our Tamers, we're running 8 total. We're running 4 Eiji Nagasumi, which is the king with the drip over here. Such a pretty card, and I think such a busted card as well. He does introduce the Mind Link mechanic, which I think is great and super, super fun. Very reminiscent to like hybrid mechanics, but this time you can keep your Tamer potentially in play. You don't have to worry about it like being stuck underneath a Digimon and then dying potentially. You have the choice to spit it back out, which I think is nice for recursion. He does give your Digimon in the stack Alliance and Blocker if they have the Dark Animal or SOC trait. And then end of turns, you can just spit it out from one of your Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying the cost. Also note that you can proc your Lugarmon and the Lugamon's inheritable effects with this card because it is SOC and trait. Their inheritable effects do not specify Digimon, they just say card with SOC or Dark Animal and trait, and he checks that box, so you can do some shenanigans with his end of all turns effect to play him out, basically gain the memory to keep your turn again. So just keep that in mind, but you do definitely want to run him at a 4. You always want to see him, you want at least one on the board. Super, super good card. And then the last Tamer we're running is 4 of Analog Youth. Again, I think just a huge early game piece for setting your trash up. Being able to cycle, set up your trash, and pick up a potential piece you need, I think it's just so great for a 2 cost. So I think you have to run him at a 4 of. There's a reason the price of this card spiked so high because of BT14. And that wraps up our Tamers. Moving on to the options, we have 4 Wisdom Training, which I think is absolutely necessary. The training cards honestly give a lot of decks so much gas that it's not just Fenrilooga that benefits from it, but I think it's absolutely necessary for this deck. Makes your Digivolution so much more efficient, so much more faster, you get into your top lines a lot faster, and it's a 2 cost to search and cycle. So I think it's just so good, so cracked for this deck particularly. Because you can easily get into like a turn 2, turn 3 Fenrilooga and just go pow, like super fast. We're then running 2 Miss Memory Boosts. Again, for similar reasons, you just want to be able to set your trash up and draw a card. Being able to get potential memories, nice as well, but I think really just for that early trash setup is why you're running this card. We're running 1 Calling from Darkness. I think nice because it helps you pull your pieces from trash. Since at the end of the day, this is a combo deck, so if you don't get your pieces, you don't see what you need to see, you're going to be in trouble. So I think calling is not a bad way to say, look, I need to rescue myself, let me pick up this piece from trash and bring it back. Demonic Disaster is the last card I'm running in this deck. It's basically a 1 cost to say, look, we're going to delete one of my own Digimon to unsuspend one of my Digimon, which can be useful in sort of closing out games, similar to what Chimera wants to do. Now, I think it's okay. You know, the inheritable effect is also not bad, allowing you to play out a level 3 or lower. I do think it is definitely flexible. You know, I think I'll test this out to see how it goes, but I could easily make a case to say instead of Demonic Disaster, I play like 1 Death X, because Death X is going to be very good for the mirror match, as well as decks, or as well as games going against decks like Digipolice, D-Brigade, whatnot, Bloom Lord as well, who got additional support with BT14. So I think maybe sprinkling in 1 of Death X as opposed to Demonic Disaster might be my way to go ultimately. But I do want to try out how this option card does, just for that extra sneaky unsuspend. So we'll see. But that does wrap up the deck. I will be linking the total photo where like it lists out all the cards for you guys in the video description down below. Let me know what you guys think of my build. Again, this may change down the line as we sort of get more testing in. And I'm really excited to play this deck. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really well represented, as it's probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest deck in the format. So be prepared to see this, and hopefully this video gave you an idea of what to look out for. Thank you guys again for all the support. look forward to more deck profiles over the next week or so. TJ is going to be cranking out a Digi-Police deck that he's super excited for. We've got Yellow Vaccine coming up as well, and a few other things that we've cooked up. So a lot more to share with you all. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.